Good morning. Today is February 22nd, 2022. In philosophy, there is a priest and there is a pimp. So how does a pimp recruit a prostitute? A pimp recruits a prostitute by first finding somebody who's down in some fashion. She may have run away from home or is having financial difficulties of some kind, although being down is by no means a prerequisite. Next, he isolates her from her friends so he can get her alone in some fashion. Now he gets started. Step one, he keeps her from walking in one direction or another. He walks up and stands in front of her and keeps her from walking past him. Next, he touches her in some fashion. He shakes hands with her, but now he just doesn't let go of her hand. He starts talking to her. I have a temper, he says, and I just don't know what I do when I have a temper. Now comes the moment of truth. He gets her to agree with him. I have a temper, and I don't know what I do when I have a temper, he says. Right, he says, and with that he might jump at her. Now, from the point of view of the future prostitute, we'll have to turn to our psychologist for this, but that said, her thinking process goes something like this. This guy's telling me I better be afraid of him or he's going to kill me. I better act afraid of him so I can get through this, but I'm not a very good actor and it's too risky, so I'll become afraid. My attitude changes, and when her attitude changes, that's it. She's no longer a future prostitute. How a pimp recruits a prostitute. From the point of view of the girl beforehand, she would have had to have been taught a sense of original sin. A human being's nature is towards evil. A human being is hardwired not to be able to stand up to a bum's rush. Also, she would have had to have lived in a society that makes a value judgment that says that this stuff is wrong to begin with. From the point of view of the girl after the fact, she would have had some preconditioned behavior that would allow her to change her attitude back. Attitudes changes behaviors, behaviors changes attitudes. Catholic confession is a terrific example of that. From the point of view of the pimp, he doesn't call himself a pimp. He calls himself an intelligent person, or a class of intelligent people, or the intelligentsia. He goes with Mother Nature. He feels good hurting other people. He makes money by making people worse off. He is a monopoly supply and demand curve. There are two kinds of pimps. There's the kind of pimp who does things naturally, a sociopath, and there's the kind of pimp who does things deliberately. They know how to manipulate, intimidate, hustle, and con. Communism, the prima donna intellectual government, is a terrific example of the routine of a pimp. In philosophy, the pimp holds absolutes. They take things to the extreme. At the other extreme is the priest. The priest holds absolutes in the other direction. When the priest appears, the American Yank comes into being, and it's the American Yank we're concerned about in this anecdote. The American Yank maximizes benefits and maximizes utilities in a completely different manner. God is love itself, so he wills the good of another person, so he defends a third person. He's taken an incredibly difficult position. He's taken a position against Mother Nature, against human nature, and against the pimp. The Catholics refer to the pimp as satanic. He makes money by making people better off. He is a normal supply and demand curve. Also, he has to be bigger than the pimp. If he can't beat up the pimp, then that's it, all is lost. The American Army Green Berets, whose motto is to free the oppressed, are a terrific example of what in this camp are called the good guys. The good guys, the bad guys, the priest and the pimp, the classic battle of good and evil, although it's not classic at all. It's a Catholic. It comes from popes and monks and monasteries. That's it. That's enough for now. Before we end this anecdote, however, if you're still interested, if you're listening and you're a gal, as you recall, we want to find somebody who will take the position of an American housewife. You have one husband and 4 kids to take care of. How much does a house cost? That will get you out of poverty and into a feeling of plenty. For example, they used to say things such as, it takes a bedroom 10 by 12 feet in order to house 2 children of the same gender. That sort of thing. How much is a budget? How much is shoes? How much is health care? How much is a trip to Disneyland every once a year? Don't forget yourself. How much is a tennis racket so you can play tennis on the weekends and do something for yourself? How much is a family budget? From the point of view of the guys, please, if we can get you to become interested and get involved, you don't ask how much money do you make, but rather how many hours do you have to work in order to come up with that family budget. There you go. That's enough for now. That's enough for this anecdote. We shall see you on the upcoming anecdotes.